All right, y'all. So you saw how the other day I was just trying to make a beat and I was critiquing the Logic Pro workflow, but recently I found out about their song Stem Splitter, and this thing is insanity. Logic Pro X11.2 is insanity. So it just inspired me so much to go back to I almost said FL, back to Logic and try out making a sample beat in here. So I have the sample, and to create a stem, basically here's the original song. And I've always loved the drum loop and the vibe of this record. So I'm going to right click and then go to where it says processing, go to stem splitter. And then I learned this from Bolo, the producer. And then you could turn on all these stems that you want, hit apply, and it will take some time, and then it will process all the stems as different tracks here into a group. So basically what I'm going to do here is just use the stems to loop stuff. So the first thing I want to loop is the actual drum. Now, before we get into the drum, I need to make sure that everything is lined up to the BPM, to the tempo. So I could visually see, like if you zoom out, the song does not start perfectly at the downbeat there, probably because it's an MP3. So let's go in, and we need to get rid of that beginning silence here. So just highlight all the tracks, left click the edge here, and just pull this back. Now I'm sure there's like a microscopic button here where we could pull it to more like fine-tuned areas. So let's go to snap to grid. Let's go to the smart mode, and let's see if this allows us more microscopic nudges here. So let's do this, and then we're going to pull everything to the left. I like to keep my snap to grid on bar because I need to visually see where I'm at, and I don't want to accidentally move stuff around. Okay, so now we have this. Now we need to figure out the tempo. There is a way to tap your tempo in Logic Pro, but it's kind of convoluted and it just requires too much stuff. So I'm going to turn the metronome on, and I'm just going to visually count the music. So let's count the music first before we start thinking about how many bars. So let's count one. Oh wait, muted it. Okay, let's do this again. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 2 and 3 and 4 and chop. Now there is a way to chop if you right click, go to split, and then split at playhead. So a way you could do this is just visually see where we are, line it up with this. Now again, we need to make sure the snap to grid is on the smart mode, and I can go in and visually see this is where I want the split to be before I loop it. So here we can hit, what was this shortcut? I forgot that fast. It was Command T or Control. Well, I guess we're on Mac. So Command T. Okay, so now we have this, and really we don't need the rest of the song as far as the drum. So let's loop just this 2-bar section here. Now the 2 bars won't be perfect 2 bars. So it's a little bit short of 2 bars. Okay, so it kind of stutters. So I'm going to move the rest of the song over here so I don't grab it by accident. So what we need to do is time stretch this. A quick way to do this is simply hit Option and just time stretch it to the bar. And now we can turn on the metronome. And it perfectly loops. Okay, so before you can even do what I just did, you have to count the music first. Okay. Most people don't count the music. Okay, so I love the drums in the beginning. I don't think we need the sample parts. Let's mute it. We're gonna add our own stuff. I don't think we need their bass either. It's hard to tell if the bass, I think it adds a little bit to the kick. So let's keep the bass, not because it's a bass, but because it's like part of the kick. Let's get rid of the other tracks. We don't need those. So another part I love about this song is the vocal harmonies. These vocal harmonies are really, 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 really good. So let's add a new audio track in here. We're going to slide it to the top so I can visually see. And I'm just going to left click the audio track and just pull it over here. Now, there is a way to chop this, but I don't know a better way to do it. So I'm just going to do the way I know. So let's right click, go to where it says convert, and then we're going to convert this to a new sampler track. Again, I'm sure there's a faster way, a more prudent way to do this, but we need to make sure it says create zones from transient markers. And I'm going to load this up in the sampler. We could do alchemy. I'll try that separately, but let's just record this. Let's open it up in the sampler. Now it will assign, if we go to the tab here, we can find our sampler. And then in the sampler, if we click on where it says zone, it should chop it up into different pieces. So now I can play my MIDI controller and it chops different parts of the audio. So we could use this like a vocal ad lib. See how I don't have full control over everything about it, but so now we can add these. Now I'm getting pumped. Okay, so now we get the vocal chops. Let's delete the MIDI and I guess we can get rid of the drums. The rest is just a loop anyway. All right, so now we can get rid of the record. So now we're just clearing space out for this specific composition. Now the tricky part is we need to get rid of all these tracks because they're eating up like visual space. So let's just get rid of these. Okay, now we have everything stacked. Okay, so now I'm going to change again my snap to grid up here to bar so that I don't accidentally like copy and paste. Let's hit, I believe it's, what is it, Command, I forgot how to duplicate. Command R is duplicate, but you got to make sure that before you hit Command R, it's perfectly looped, or else you get latch pasting, I believe, which basically you have to make sure you have a perfect loop before you do it. Okay, so now we have the same loop. Okay, so far so good. Let's save this before I forget. Let's call this like 90s hip hop. This is inspiring me to actually make an album. Logic Pro, 90s hip hop, and I'll just say funny. It's Time Flies. Let's call it Time Flies. Okay, so now we need to add the so I like the original vocal in here. I'm not gonna mess with that. You know what I think I just did? I think I deleted the actual vocal ad-libs. So let me figure out a way to bring those back. All right, so basically I just re-chopped the sample, and now we have the vocal chop back. That was my mistake. Wasn't paying attention there. Let's call this vocal chop so I don't do that again. And now I'm just gonna go through and just play random chops. So let me just find the good keys. All right, so let's add these original sample chops in here, and then we'll duplicate this and add the more harmonic performance in here. So let's just duplicate it. I'll say harmony chop so I know which is which. So one, I'm just gonna focus on the actual sample they sampled from. All right, so it's just these three chops here. Let's run this all the way back here, record, make sure I'm recording on this one. All right, so that's all we need is like 16 bars of that. I don't know how to slice perfectly the 16 bar section like FL. You can kind of slice and know exactly that you sliced. I'm not sure how to do it here. We're not going to obsess about that. Let's just run it back, quantize these, double click, hit Control A, hit Q to quantize. So I'm getting used to the workflow a little bit. So I definitely need to start with loops in Logic. I don't know if I could do like chop style sampling. I don't know that workflow just yet. Let's see if we could duplicate this over. So I'm going to copy and paste it by the playhead and not by the Command R, because so let's add a little vibe. I know I'm moving a little bit quicker here, but I don't want to spend too much time on effects. Let's add some tape delay. This is just one of my favorite plugins in here. We're going to add like more of a retro tape delay, not tempo synced. We're just going to take that off. So it's purposely offbeat. So I like the vibe. Let's just pull the mix level back. So it makes the vocal chops a little bit different than the main vocal. Let's see what harmony chops we can find. So this is very like 90s chops, not necessarily like time stretch chops. For like super time stretch stuff, I would definitely go to Serato. So now I'm just gonna play it. So I'm just gonna play random keys at this point because these are all just a vibe, so it can't really go wrong with any of them. So record. Let's run that back. Boom. So now I'm having fun in the DAW again, whereas I did not have this much fun in FL. So again, I kind of messed up some of the timing. My finger slipped, but let's just keep what we have. Whoops, wrong button. Now this one, I'm gonna use the same delay, but just use more of the stereo spread feature. I like the rhythmic chop here. So this is serving the same purpose as that filtered sample that was in the original record. This is such a vibe. You know what I love about Logic too? It really makes you appreciate delay and reverb, like very basic stuff. Whereas in other DAWs, I don't really appreciate necessarily the delay and reverb. So I'm really this is a fun workflow. Let's see if we can pump the drums up a little bit. Some compression here. Saturate the sound here. I'm gonna push the drum, see how hard we can push the drum. Now keep in mind, these drums are sampled from the record using the stem splitter, and it sounds like we have the multi-tracks from the actual session. Also love the Logic EQ, it's very well done. Boost up. Now, I would love to add a filter to this part. I don't know how to automate filters. I forgot how to do automation in here. This looks like an automation button, so let's see. Okay, before I say I don't know how to do something, let me just figure it out. Okay, so we don't have anything there yet. So let's see if we could add a filter. This may or may not go, hey, what's the word? It may or may not go haywire. So let's duplicate this just in case. And let's pull these down to the next channel down. That way, if I ever mess this up, we could always go back to the original. Or instead of doing all the automation stuff, and actually I need to learn automation. So let's add an EQ. And again, this is not a tutorial. I'm trying to figure this out myself. Let's see how intuitive it is. So I'm going to pull the filter down until I hear the filtering. So we're right here. Okay, so I chiseled out too much. Got a little bit of resonance too. Get that 90s vibe. Okay, so let's see if we can automate. Let's see what we can even automate. Let's click on automation. Let's click on here. Okay, so we can automate different parameters. That makes sense. So it just goes based off of what's actually on the actual audio. So let's go here to the channel EQ and let's do the low frequency. Now this is confusing. What do they consider high cut and low cut? So technically we're cutting the highs here. This would be a low cut. Let me just make sure I'm reading the values in the top left here. Band 8 on and off. Okay, so I just need to make sure I know which thing they're considering which thing. All right, let's go here. Let's do channel EQ. Technically, we did a high cut because we're cutting out the highs. Let's do this one. And okay, so it's at 675. I don't see the lines to automate this though. So I'm a little confused on this part here. I don't even see where we can even automate anything. Am I just not paying attention? Let me see here. I don't know. This is not like obvious. And for that reason, I'm not going to obsess about that. I'll just duplicate the thing and just add different effects. So again, not a tutorial, but I got to find out how to do that. Let's create like a stereo spread. So I'm going to create like a chorusy effect. So it's just like a weird little, feels like an event type of effect. Pull it back in volume a little bit. Then we're gonna bring back the harmony. See if we can compress this a little bit. I love how in this DAW, mixing feels like a creative part and not like a technical thing you have to do. It really feels like the creative part of the production. Because it's... See if I can get some more harmonics out of the... We have a super 90s vibe right here. Okay, so all we need really is like a bass line and maybe some additional instruments. So now that we have the sample together, I'm gonna add another track here. Let's add a software instrument and let's just figure out what key we're in first. Might add a couple of keys in here. All right, now I know they have an instrument called like studio bass. Let's try their studio instruments. Let's try their bass. So I want to go doom, 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 boom, something like that. All right, so that's. I also feel like the piano or the sample is a little detuned. So let's tune this. I don't even know how to tune it. Figure out how to tune it. Let me pause this video, figure out how to tune instruments here. All right, so I don't know if this is the original way to do it, but basically I had to go into the project settings. I've been searching for like 20 minutes on how to do this. If you go to File, Project Settings, go to Tuning. I don't know how to do this per instrument, so I'm gonna just do it from here because the other stuff is just from the sample. So I'm just gonna start here and then we're gonna tune it by ear. It's definitely not perfectly tuned. Then by default, it was down here. It was just too flat. Now, an easier way to tune is to pitch up your bass. Okay, so again, by default, it was at. It's not tuned perfectly. So we got to pitch it up 23 cents. Now it's way more in key. So sometimes you guys are in key. It's just your instruments are not tuned and you feel like you're going out of key, but it's really just the tuning. All right, so you learn something every day. That's how you tune in, at least for that. I don't know if that's the right way, but that's how I'm going to tune in Logic. Let's add this bass line. Let me do that take again, only because I was playing the wrong two notes and then my finger slipped. All right, so that little 90s at the end, you really got to get in that 90s workflow to get your brain around that timing. Let's hit Control C. Just use the playhead to copy and paste again. I don't know how to perfectly chop it at the ends there to make sure that it doesn't latch paste incorrectly. So let's just do it that way. Let's beef up the bass a little bit, maybe some compression, some compressor should be enough. Let's see. Bass to become too bitey if I compress too much. Let's add a little filter to it just so it has that 90s vibe. Also by default it has this chorusy thing on it. I'm going to turn that off. Let's filter this with a high cut. So my beat's coming out way better in Logic. And it just sounds clean. That's why I like Logic Pro. So now we're filtering the bass to make it feel like we filtered that from an actual song. Let's see what that chorus will do. feel like this is not so much. All right, so I like this. This is more of a small room send. Let's also go back to that drum. Send it to bus 4, see if we can get some of that room, small room. This adds a little bit of width stereo delay. Gives the bass a little room. We could go through and add some like chords or something. Let's just vibe out to the track for a second. So we're pushing heavy into the stereo output. Let's start adding some processing there so I could hear what it sounds like. All right, I clicked the mastering by accident. Didn't mean to turn that on. All right, cool. That adds a little bit of latency, so you got to be careful not to hit the mastering. I like to run my stuff through the tape delay, not as a delay, but as a saturating tool. Let's turn these off. Turn all the modifiers. Turn the delay time down, and then mess with the clip threshold here. This adds a distortion. And it's a really nice distortion. So we can blend this in with the dry level, but let's just see. Also, we can filter this with a filter here. So this is gonna help fill out the low end a little bit. And let's pull the dry level back. So here's without. See how the track just got bigger without. So Logic Pro has a lot of cool things like that. I'm just trying to glue everything together, add a little more dynamic. So an expander is going to help me add some transient information back into this. We want the transient to be really short. Transients are really short, like really, really short. Let's also put this after the compressor in the scene, and let's just A-B it. So if your track is missing that like head bob, it's usually because the transients aren't sharp enough. Alright, so now we have the mix. Let's see what other instruments we could add. So the chord we're playing here is F minor ninth. I'm just emphasizing that note C, but it really, that's the fifth. Let's keep playing F minor 9 here. You guys will get the project files for free. Just go to busyworksbeats.com/FL Studio. I know a crazy link for a Logic Pro tutorial, but I think we're pretty much done. If I overly add stuff, it could just overly fill the beat. But that's so 90s. Let me give it a vibe by adding some like flanger or some delay. Maybe even a filter. Here I'm pulling the filter back. Instead of 24 dB per octave, which is really sharp, let's do like 6 dB per octave. And add some more resonance for that 90s vibe. I guess I feel like the resonance works different depending on the octave. Okay, that's why. So let's do 12 dB per octave because then the resonance works differently. We can emphasize that 400 hertz. And let's give it a little widening. Let's try like a phaser or flanger. Let's try them both. Let's pull back the mix level. So it gives it more of a guitar feel. So we got a vibe. We may or may not be able to add some guitar in here. I don't know what their studio guitar sounds like. It might not even be a thing because they have studio bass, they have studio strings. I want to see if they have a studio guitar. Maybe not. Okay, so they have studio bass but not the guitar. So I think strings would just overkill, be overkill for this beat. This is too much. Only for like small stuff, something like that. That's not one thing we need strings for this beat. Let's just vibe out. Let's start from the beginning and just vibe to the beat. So I'm going to arrange this a little bit just by taking out the bass and some of the piano here. Logic is really the GOAT, y'all. If you want these project files, go to busyworksbeats.com/FL Studio. Subscribe if you're new. Peace, guys.